If you think an Antarctic cruise is a bucket list dream filled with penguins, peace, and pristine glaciers, you're only half right, because once you're on board, that's when the surprises begin. And not the good kind like champagne or free cabin upgrades. I've been to Antarctica 3 times, and every single trip I've seen passengers blindsided by the same hidden truths. So let's break down the realities of Antarctic cruising before you break out your parka and passport. This is what cruise lines don't tell you, until you're trapped on board with a pair of binoculars and a $10,000 itinerary. You know that beautiful cruise itinerary you carefully picked out online? It's mostly fiction. Expedition lines don't make this clear, but the itinerary is more wishful thinking than actual plan. Once you're on board, the captain and expedition leader will change course based on ice, weather, wind, and other ships in the area. For example, on my last cruise with Silversea's Silver Endeavour, we didn't even embark from the port they promised. A day before boarding, we were told to go to a completely different city due to high winds. One destination after another got cancelled or swapped. We missed Antarctic Sound and had to skip parts of the peninsula entirely. But, silver lining, we also had bonus landings at unexpected locations, like Bailey Head, home to one of the largest chinstrap penguin colonies in the region. So yes, your trip is still spectacular. Just don't get too attached to that glossy brochure. Cruise lines show you endless pictures of fluffy penguin chicks and snowy wonderlands. But guess what? That depends entirely on what month you go. In November, you'll see fresh snow and animals starting their breeding season. But fewer whales. In December, more whales, more birds, and more adorable chaos. January and February? Expect penguin chicks, lots of whales. And sorry, a lot of penguin poop too. By late February, most wildlife starts heading back to sea, and landing sites are muddier and icier. So if you're expecting baby seals in March, you might be met with empty beaches and the occasional grumpy skua. Plan your expectations the way you pack your suitcase, seasonally and with flexibility. Here's a detail no cruise line advertises. If anyone on board has a medical emergency, the entire ship might turn around. Why? Because there are no hospitals in Antarctica, not one. If someone breaks a leg or suffers something serious, your itinerary becomes a rescue mission. Sometimes, ships can sail to King George Island for a medical evac, but only if the runway is clear of ice. On one of my trips, we were told the entire expedition could be cut short with just one bad sprain. The mood on board suddenly felt like a retirement home with a strict no-falling policy, so pack your adventure spirit and maybe also a good pair of knee braces. Expedition cruising isn't a do-as-you-like affair. There are rules, lots of them. Before you ever set foot on Antarctic soil, you'll sit through required briefings. There are IAA-TO rules, the International Association of Antarctic Tour Operators, that dictate where you can walk, how far you must stay from wildlife, and even how to clean your boots. Oh, and you'll go through biosecurity checks multiple times. That means every glove, gaiter, and backpack gets examined for seeds, bugs, or mystery fluff that could harm the ecosystem. I went through 3 biosecurity inspections on my last cruise. Even my camera tripod had to pass the test. If this sounds like airport security for penguins, that's because it basically is. You know that penguin chick photo you saw in the brochure? Don't get too excited. What you see, or don't, depends on the month, weather, and luck. I once landed at Deception Island in November and saw beaches crawling with wildlife. Returned in February? Nothing but rocks, seaweed, and a lonely skua looking mildly offended. Antarctica isn't a zoo, and the wildlife doesn't perform on cue. This might be the most important thing of all. Your captain and expedition leader decide everything, from daily schedules to where and when you go ashore. Their experience, or lack thereof, will shape your trip. And here's the kicker. You won't know who they are until you're already on the ship. A seasoned leader might find a secret cove full of whales. A less experienced one might play it safe and keep you on board during a minor swell. On my last cruise, we found out after boarding that the professional photographer had been cut from the team. No photos, no recap video, no look where I went bragging rights. Lesson: don't assume. Always ask about the team before you book. Not all Antarctic cruises are created equal. The number of passengers on board makes a huge difference in what you'll actually do. Small ships, under 200 guests, have access to more landing sites. Larger ships, far more restrictions. Only 100 people are allowed ashore at once, so on big ships, you'll spend more time waiting for your turn, or not going ashore at all. Worse still, classic cruise lines like Holland America or Norwegian can't land anyone at all. It's scenic cruising only. So yes, your ship's size determines whether you walk among penguins, or squint at them from the top deck with a zoom lens and a cold coffee. Most cruisers avoid inside cabins like the plague. No windows, no views. Some say it's like sleeping in a shoebox at sea. So why do I keep booking them over and over again? Well, after more than 30 cruises and thousands of dollars saved, I can tell you this: inside cabins are one of the most underrated travel hacks in cruising. They're not glamorous, they're not scenic, but they've let me travel farther, cruise more often, and actually enjoy my vacations more. And today, I'm going to show you why I always choose an inside cabin, even when I could afford something bigger. Plus, I'll share the unexpected perks most cruisers don't realize, including how one of my balcony upgrades totally backfired. Let's get into it. Let me be brutally honest. I wouldn't be able to cruise half as much if I didn't choose inside cabins. These rooms have saved me thousands of dollars, and I'm not exaggerating. While everyone else is overpaying for ocean views and balconies they barely use, I'm stretching my budget and going on twice as many cruises. One time, I compared two identical sailings. Same ship, same itinerary. The inside cabin, $900 cheaper. That's an entire Caribbean shore excursion package, flight upgrade, and drink package. All covered by what I didn't spend on a view I'd barely be in the room to see. And here's the real trick no one talks about. Book early, then reprice often. Cruise prices can drop weeks before departure, and if you haven't hit final payment, you can usually rebook at the lower rate. It's how I've saved hundreds of dollars mid-booking, sometimes without lifting a finger. Most people don't realize this, but inside cabins aren't a downgrade. They're a strategy. This might sound crazy, but inside cabins are actually some of the quietest places on the entire cruise ship. Yeah, the rooms people say are cramped and claustrophobic, they're also the only place where you can actually escape the noise. See, on one cruise, I stayed in a promenade view room, a window cabin that looked out over the ship's interior boardwalk. It sounded fun on paper, until midnight karaoke started echoing through the walls. Kids were screaming, glasses clinking. The hallway lights never dimmed. We barely slept. But the next cruise, I went back to my trusty inside cabin. No windows, no noise, no distractions, just pure silence and the darkest sleep I've had in years. And here's the trick. If you book an inside room that's sandwiched between other cabins, away from the theater, elevators, or nightclubs, it becomes your own personal sleep sanctuary. No footsteps above you, no bass thumping from the nightclub, just you, your pillow, and blackout-level silence. I didn't realize how much I valued peace until I finally got it. This might be the biggest surprise of all. Inside cabins, the cheapest rooms on the ship, actually give you the best sleep you'll ever have on vacation. No balcony, no window, no sunlight, and that's exactly why they work. One cruise, I stayed in a balcony cabin facing the ocean. Gorgeous view. But every single morning, the sun came blasting through the curtains at 6 a.m. like a spotlight. I couldn't sleep in, even when I wanted to. The next cruise, I went back to my usual inside cabin, and it was a total game changer. I slept 9 hours straight. No alarms, no light leaks, no interruptions, just pure, uninterrupted blackout. And here's the thing most people don't realize. It doesn't matter if it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. In an inside cabin, your body thinks it's midnight. That means instant naps, deeper sleep, and more energy for your actual vacation. On port-heavy cruises, when you're waking up early and walking 10,000 steps a day, that kind of rest is everything. You didn't come on vacation to wake up tired. You came to feel amazing. And ironically, the room that helps you do that is the one most people overlook. You might think an inside cabin is cramped, awkward, and barely livable. But here's the truth. These rooms are way more functional than people give them credit for. And in some cases, they actually work better than bigger cabins. Let me explain. On one of my first cruises, I was nervous about booking an inside room. I imagined bumping into furniture, nowhere to put my things, no space to move. Basically sleeping in a closet at sea. But when I walked in, I was shocked. Everything had a place. The closet was full-sized. The bed was huge. Even the nightstands had drawers. The vanity doubled as a desk, and there was hidden shelving I didn't even notice at first. It was like being in a tiny, perfectly engineered spaceship. Compact but efficient, and way more comfortable than I expected. And here's what no one tells you. Cruise lines know these rooms are small, so they've designed them down to the centimeter. You're not just getting a cheaper cabin, you're getting a space that's been optimized for actual travelers. So unless you're planning to stay in your cabin all day, which, let's be honest, you won't feel like you're missing anything. In fact, you might start wondering, why were you paying more for space you never used? Let's be honest. Have you ever bought something expensive and then felt like you had to force yourself to use it just to feel like it was worth it? That's exactly what happened when I booked my first suite on a cruise. The room was gorgeous, massive balcony, comfy couch, even extra perks like a priority check-in. But halfway through the cruise, something weird happened. I started stressing about whether I was using it enough. Should I be relaxing more in the room? Should I skip this show and enjoy the balcony? Should I stay in and get my money's worth? Suddenly, I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to do. I was thinking about what I should do to justify the price. Now compare that to cruising in an inside cabin. I sleep, I shower, I leave. That's it. And because I'm not paying for luxury, I don't feel obligated to use it. No guilt, no pressure, no second-guessing my fun. I can spend my days exactly how I want, from sunrise at the buffet to late-night karaoke, without once thinking, should I be in my room right now? Sometimes, the best value isn't what gives you more. It's what gives you the freedom to enjoy everything else. What if I told you some inside cabins actually have a view, even though there's no window at all? I didn't believe it at first either, but it's real, and it's kinda genius. On some of Royal Caribbean's newer ships, you can book an inside cabin with something called a virtual balcony, a massive floor-to-ceiling screen that shows you the exact live view from outside the ship. Waves rolling, sunrises, even port arrivals, all in real time. The first time I stayed in one, I walked in and thought, wait, am I in the wrong room? Because it actually felt like a balcony cabin, even though I was paying inside cabin prices. And Norwegian? They've gone a step further. They now have solo cabins with built-in virtual windows just for one-person stays, and they're surprisingly cozy. Now, does it feel exactly like having a real balcony? Of course not. You can't step out, smell the ocean, or hear the wind, but it gives you the illusion of space, and sometimes that's all you need to feel a little less boxed in. It's kind of like cruise ship magic, using tech to make a small room feel big. And if you've ever worried about feeling claustrophobic in an inside cabin, this just might be the feature that changes your mind. Let me tell you about the time I upgraded to a balcony cabin and instantly regretted it. We were cruising around Iceland. Glaciers, fjords, absolutely breathtaking. I figured, you know what? I deserve this. So I paid an extra $300 for a balcony cabin, thinking I'd spend every morning sipping coffee with a view. But the moment we set sail, I realized I had made a mistake. Our neighbors? Let's just say they didn't care about the no-smoking policy, or the fact that marijuana is banned on board. They were lighting up on the balcony, constantly. Every time I stepped outside to enjoy the view, it hit me like a wall. Not ocean breeze, not fresh air, smoke, all day. We reported it. The cruise line handled it professionally, but for those first few days, my expensive upgrade, completely wasted. And that's when it hit me. Inside cabins don't have this problem. No balconies, no smoke drifting in, no awkward eye contact through glass dividers. Just walls. Soundproof. Problem-free. Inside cabins might be small, but they come with peace of mind you can't always buy, even if you upgrade. And if you think that's the only hidden downside of balcony cabins, wait until you hear this next one. All right, now that you've seen the perks, let's talk about you. Because the real question isn't whether inside cabins are good, it's whether they're right for your cruise. So let me break it down. If you're cruising on a budget, and I mean really trying to stretch every dollar, this is the easiest win of your whole vacation. Skip the balcony, book the inside cabin, and use that extra cash for excursions, drinks, or even another cruise. If your itinerary is port-intensive, where you're off the ship nearly every day, why pay more for a view you won't be there to enjoy? Now, flip that. If you're sailing through Alaska, Iceland, or Norway, the kind of destinations where the view is the experience, then yes, a balcony might actually be worth it. Waking up to glaciers and fjords, that's once-in-a-lifetime stuff. And here's a big one. If you're the type of traveler who values slow mornings, private downtime, room service in robes, you might genuinely enjoy the space and vibe of a balcony or suite. But if you're like me, the kind of cruiser who wants to explore every deck, hit every show, and squeeze every ounce of adventure out of the trip, then you don't need a balcony. You need a charging station, a shower, and a place to crash. That's it. You don't need your cabin to be a destination, because the ship and the journey already is. And if that sounds like you, then an inside cabin just makes sense. That's why I almost always stay in an inside cabin. And maybe you should too. Let me know in the comments, what kind of cabin do you usually book and why? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell, so you never miss a new tip from Cruise Blog. Thanks for watching, and happy cruising. So, is Antarctic cruising worth it? Absolutely, but only if you go in with your eyes wide open and your parka zipped up. The truth is, Antarctica is wild, unpredictable, and completely unforgettable. But it's not a theme park. Things will change, plans will shift, and you'll probably lose your favorite gloves to a sudden gust of wind. But if you're prepared for all of that, you'll have the trip of a lifetime. And if you want to know how to do it without breaking the bank, head over to my next video, where I break down exactly how to visit Antarctica on a budget. See you there. Stay warm.